Hey everyone, Will and Eric here from Mature Many Gamers, and today we're going to be bringing you our review for Fast and Furious Highway Heist from Funko Games and Prospero Hall. This one is ages 12 and up, 2 to 4 players, plays around 60 minutes, and a very fun interactive game where you'd be driving down a highway, battling, doing different objectives, fully cooperative. Let's take a look at how the game works and we'll be right back with our thoughts. Alright, the first thing you're going to do when you set up Fast and Furious Highway Heist is you're going to take the road board, set it in the middle of the table, like so. Then each player chooses one of the 6 included character cards. I'm going to be setting up Dominic Toretto. I'm going to be placing that in front of me. Then each player is going to be taking one of the corresponding vehicle cards, taking the card in the color that they like the most, noticing that each side is double-sided, American Muscle, Hijacked SUV on both sides, an Exotic Supercar, Street Drifter, and Import Racer. We're going to be setting up on this side, and we're going to be using the American Muscle. Players then take their vehicle token, their player peg, their strength cube, and their underlight token. They're going to be placing the vehicle in one of the 6 starting spaces, taking their player peg, putting it onto their vehicle, saying that you are driving the vehicle, taking your strength cube, putting that into the top slot of the vehicle side as well, and then taking your underlight token, putting it to the side of the player board. Then each player is going to be given 2 boost tokens, and placing those underneath their character card. Place the enemy die and the 5 effort dice next to the board as well. Then players have to decide which scenario they're going to play. There is Tank Assault, Semi-Heist, and Chopper Takedown. We are going to be showing you the setup for Tank Assault. You're going to place that above the road board. You're going to take the 12 scenario cards that correspond with the scenario you're playing. We are again doing Tank Assault, giving these a good shuffle, playing them next to the enemy, the scenario card here in the enemy deck area. You're going to be selecting the stunt cards that correspond to your given scenario. Again, we're going to be setting up Tank Assault. These are not inherently shuffled all together. You're going to be taking the 1 level 3, placing it down next to the player board. You're going to be taking the 4 level 2 scenario cards, giving them a good shuffle, or stunt cards, giving them a good shuffle, placing them here, taking the 4 level 1s, and again shuffling them and placing them on top. Then you're going to take the top stunt card, you're going to place it in the stunt area, and you're going to place the number of boost tokens that it has on the little icons here. So we're going to be placing 2 boost tokens on the stunt card. You then flip over the scenario board and it's going to go over the setup. So this one here says place the tank in the center at 4 spaces as shown. This corresponds to the center of the road board. You're going to be taking the tank, placing it in the center 4 squares. You're going to be taking 4 SUVs, placing them in each corner corresponding. And then the third step is it does save the 3 corresponding to these SUVs. You're going to be taking 2 of the enemy pegs, placing them inside the vehicles. Then you're going to flip over this scenario board back over, and depending on the number of players, you're going to be taking the enemy strength cube and placing that in the corresponding spot. This is going to be set up for 2 players, 3 players, and 4 players. And obviously the more number of players, the higher the player count, I should say, is the tougher the actual tank is to defeat. You put all unused components back into the game box and you're ready to begin Tank Assault. Each character is a little bit different, which adds to some of the variability in the game, which I really do love. There are 4 main stats that you look at: speed, control, athletics, and defense. And when you place down a different vehicle, it will change the dynamic of each of the characters. So if we use, for example, the Import Racer here, we would have 4 speed, 3 control, 3 athletics, and 2 defense. But if we were to instead, we were going to be taking the Street Drifter, we're going to have 3 speed, 3 control, 3 athletics, and 3 defense. A little bit more dynamic there. Now each of the vehicles do have their own unique ability. Lose them fast, for example, on the Street Drifter. On your turn, when your street drifter is manned, you may attempt one shake action that does not count as one of your 2 actions. Now you could take 2 different actions during your turn, and these actions have different requirements for a roll. So for example, if we are the street racer, the Roman Pierce, or the street drifter, and we want to attempt a ram, we need to roll control. So the number of dice we're going to roll under control is the number of squares over here, so we would roll 3 dice. And corresponding with the number here, we would need to have 3 successes. Now what exactly is a defense? When you roll the skill dice, you're looking for these little green circles. So if you roll 3 skill dice, again attempting to do a ram, we'd roll, 3 control dice. We had 2 successes, that was a fail. Now one of the things you can do with your boost symbol here is you're able to use the boost tokens. So on yourself, you can use it to turn all of your boost results into successes. Another team member can use a boost to add 2 extra dice per token discarded, but no more than 5 dice can be rolled in a turn. So let's go over all of the actions and explain in detail what they do. So first off, we're going to be going over the drive action. We're going to be using Dominic Toretto for this example. So our drive action is going to be under speed. Now with the American Muscle and Dominic as the driver, we have a total of 5 speed, meaning we can move 5 spaces when we move our character, our vehicle. So, and diagonals do count as 1, so you could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, for example. Another action we could take is going to be the leap action, which requires the athletic stat. So for Dominic, we have 2 athletics because the American Muscle vehicle does not give us any additional athletics. So again, there's no roll required. What does the 2 mean for leap? Well, for leap, no roll is required. You use the leap action to get your vehicle, your character, out on top of the vehicle, okay? Then you insert your piggyback into an available slot on top of another vehicle within the number of spaces equal to the athletics rating. So if my athletics is 2, I could jump up to 2 spaces away on a vehicle that has an available peg or hole. So if I wanted to jump to this SUV, it's 2 spaces away, I'm able to leap over to that on top of that SUV. We're going to be going over what exactly you can do while on top of another vehicle later. But again, when you are actually in your vehicle, this peg stays inside of it, showing that the vehicle is manned. The next action we're going to go over is going to be more examples of what ram means. So let's just say I wanted to attempt a ram on this SUV that is in front of me here. So what I would roll is I would take my speed icons here, and so I have a total of 5, and I need to get 3 successes. And again, I take those 5 skill dice because that's the max number of dice I can roll. I roll them, and I'm looking for 3 successes, which is indicated by this green circle here, telling me the number of successes I need. Because I was able to roll my 3 successes that I was required, I was successful on the ram action. Once I'm successful in the ram action, the vehicle that I was ramming becomes a wreck. Okay? Now, one of the things with the American Muscle, the special ability on this vehicle, is whenever you successfully ram an enemy SUV, you may move the resulting wreck into an empty adjacent space. So I can move the wreck here. Now, why that would be a good idea is because at the end of each round, all wrecked vehicles are going to move down the road. And if this was in front of me, then that would spell doom for the American Muscle, and I got to be careful about where you position your vehicles. The next action you can take is called Force, which uses the control. Now, Dominic isn't too good at that because he only has 1 in the icons for control and none on the vehicle itself, and I would need 3 successes. Now, one of the things you can do with your boost tokens is on another player's turn, you can spend a boost token to give them an additional dice, up to 2 boost tokens for each one. So, for example, if player to the left of me discarded a boost token, that would add 2 dice to my roll. So I start off with 1. So that would add 2. And the player to my right, if we're in a 3-player game, can spend a boost token to add 2 to my roll. That way I'm able to roll all 5 dice, attempting to achieve this objective of getting enough successes, which again for Dominic, for Force, would be 3 of the green dot requirements. Now what does Force do? So Force is you use the enemy's action to move another vehicle on the road. When you perform a Force action, move an enemy SUV or player adjacent to a manned player vehicle and move it up to 2 spaces. So essentially what that means is you're able to force other vehicles either out of the way or in positions you really would rather them be. It may not be moved through or in any space occupied via vehicle or wreck. But that does not just mean just SUVs you can force. You could also force player vehicles where you need them to be, so that on their turn they are able to perform their actions. So the game is very tactical as far as positioning and placement and trying to throw these SUVs at the tank before it's going to unleash. And we're going to talk about that here in just a few more minutes. The next action we could take is a shake. So if you have an enemy player peg on top of your car, one of the things you can attempt to do is shake them off. So we use the shake skill. So again, this would be control because of the little steering wheel icon here. So that would need 2 successes, but I only have 1 dice. Again, I would need a little bit of help unless I was able to roll this to success. If you are successful in the shake, then the player peg or the enemy peg does come off and goes back to the general supply. So the next action we're going to talk about is brawl. And again, this one uses the athletics action. So with athletics, again, Dominic has 2, nothing from the American Muscle. I would need 2 successes for this action. So this is going to be if a enemy peg is on top of this, and then you jumped off of the vehicle as well, and you jumped onto this SUV, and you wanted to try to fight them and knock them off, you're able to do that. Or if an enemy is on top of your car, and you want to jump on top of your vehicle and knock them off, as opposed to doing a shake action, it really just depends on what your chances are for success, which one would be a better thing to do. And then last but certainly not least, you can actually take the hijack enemy SUV action. So if your vehicle is actually gone down and about to get blown up, or even if it is gone and you're on top of an enemy SUV, you can actually attempt to use your athletics check to take control of the SUV, and that's where the highlight token was come into play, going underneath the vehicle, showing that you are in control of it. Now you can again still jump from vehicle to vehicle with your leap action, taking control of other enemy SUVs, and so on and so forth. A lot of crazy things can happen, and it gives a lot of versatility. Now, whenever a player we're going to be doing one of these conditions for these stunt cards, is you manage player vehicle is directly behind the tank, and an enemy SUV is directly behind your player vehicle. So for example, for Leapfrog, if I was here and an enemy SUV was here, I would be able to test my speed dice, and I would need 3 successes, and if I was able to pull this off, the tank takes 1 damage or remove the enemy SUV. So essentially I hit the brakes, they smack into me, they fly over and smack right on top of the enemy SUV or the tank, blowing up the SUV and causing 1 damage to the tank. The team that is able to get the tank all the way destroyed would win this scenario. Now, one of the things we haven't talked about is really what happens when the tank moves. So you have these special rules. The tank damage whenever the tank hits a wreck or has a wreck land on it, remove the wreck and the tank takes 1 damage. When the tank strength cube moves out the scenario board, the tank has been destroyed and you win. Tank movement. Whenever the player die causes the tank to move north or south, it moves into a vehicle with it. Moves into a space with the vehicle, that vehicle is pushed 1 space in the same direction. If the tank moves into a player vehicle, the player vehicle is dealt 4 damage, and you got to roll your defense. Now, again, the defense for the American Muscle would be these 4 pips here, 2 from Dominic and 2 from the American Muscle vehicle, trying to roll successes to avoid damage. If I was going to take 4, for example, I'd roll 4 of the skill dice here. I have 1 success, and I still take 3, unless I were to convert and spend a boost token to convert this to a success. And again, if I had 3 boost tokens and I spent 1 boost, or boost icons, I spent 1 boost token, all of these would turn to successes. So if this was my result, I'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 with spending 1 boost token, which could be pretty amazing. Alright, so after each player has taken their 2 actions, then that player is going to roll the enemy dice and resolve what happens. Now there are different faces, so let's go over each of them now. So the first symbol we're going to talk about is the SUV symbol. And starting from east to west, each of the SUVs are going to activate depending on what they need to do. So for example, when we look at the enemy SUV, they're either going to slam or move to be closer to a player vehicle. Okay? So when a SUV slams, so like this SUV is going to slam against this car, it slams and deals 3 damage to the player vehicle. That player would then take their corresponding character as well as vehicle. They would find their defense value, roll that number of dice, looking for successes. Now in this case, 2 successes versus 3 damage, they would actually take none. If there is damage that is dealt, they're going to move their damage die or damage cube down their vehicle board on the right side. If there are no vehicles adjacent for them to slam, then they are going to move 1 space close to the closest vehicle. So if we were in control of actually here, they would move 1 space close to the closest vehicle, favoring the active player. So if I was the one who rolled this dice, they would slam him because he's adjacent, but if they need to move, they wouldn't move north, even if he was the closest technically, like this. They technically are closer to here, but they're going to favor the actual active player if it was Dominic's turn. The next one we're going to talk about is the enemy peg. So all enemy pegs activate and either damage a player vehicle or damage a player peg or move to the top of a player vehicle. So if this one was rolled and this guy is on top and I was the active player, being Dominic Toretto, they would jump to me. This guy would actually go ahead and just damage the vehicle itself, and again I would be rolling defense. The next one we could roll is going to be the skull, and that is an enemy card. That's going to be these enemy cards here. You would flip it over and read what happens. So tank escorts, place an enemy SUV in each of the 2 spaces directly behind the tank. So in this case, what would happen is an SUV would go here, and because this space is currently occupied, we would actually place an SUV as directly behind as we can. Okay? And then when this card activates, meaning it moves all the way down here, so this would go here. If we ever roll a skull, we would draw another one. And then finally, when the card reaches this, is when we do this ability. Each player vehicle adjacent to both the tank and an enemy SUV is dealt 4 damage, roll defense. So these cards are bad if they continuously just continue to come out, and then after they get activated, they move off the board. Let's say we had more later on. So cleanup crew, sweepers, each enemy SUV moves 1 space towards the nearest wreck. Beat down each player vehicle with an enemy peg on top is dealt 4 damage, roll defense. And when it activates, each wreck adjacent to an enemy SUV is removed. So this, and them continuously coming out, causing more chaos, can be very bad. Now, some of the other dice facing you can roll is going to be the north and the enemy scenario card as well. But what is the N and what does the S mean? Well, basically what that's going to mean is the tank is going to be moving north and south. So you move the main enemy vehicle, whether it be the tank, the semi, or the chopper. So you're going to move that corresponding 1 space. So let's say we rolled the south, we would move it here. If there was an enemy or a player vehicle here, it would get slammed, shoved down to the side, and it would cause damage. They'd be able to roll defense. Now, how do we know that? Well, when we look at the tank assault card, it says tank movement. Whenever the enemy dice causes the tank to move north and south, it moves into a space with a vehicle. That vehicle is pushed 1 space in the same direction. If the tank moves into a player vehicle, the player vehicle is dealt 4 damage and roll defense. Okay? So it also shows you what's considered adjacent to the tank if anything were to affect adjacencies. At the end of each round, after all players have taken their turns, then road maintenance occurs. So you're going to move wrecks 4 spaces to the west. So let's say there was a wreck here, and you're going to move this 1, 2, 3. When this collides with the tank itself, tank is going to take 1 damage going down a spot. Then this goes back to the supply. Any unmanned player vehicles, meaning I have jumped off of out of my car and I've jumped to this SUV or even on top of the tank itself, all my unmanned player vehicles are going to be moving 1 space west. Vehicles that have been abandoned or are no longer a player vehicle are also moved 1 space west. If an unmanned or abandoned vehicle has another vehicle directly behind it, it does not move. So this vehicle is not going to be able to move because this vehicle is directly behind it, basically keeping it going. Then we're going to do the stunt maintenance. Each of these cards is going to be moved down 1 space, and a new one comes out with another boost token being placed where they go. Now, once you've, of course, actually activated the stunt, I forgot to mention these, if I was successful in this, these come off, and that's how you're going to be generating more boosts, is trying to complete these stunts. So these boosts are a limited resource, and you want to be careful about when you activate them. Now, once there are no more boost tokens on the card, this is able to come off and get discarded. And as they continue to move and move and move, and eventually you're going to get into harder and harder and harder stunts to perform, but could be more rewarding. One of the ways that the game can end is when the 3rd scenario card, or the 3rd stunt card ever moves off of the board, then players can end the game there. If the players achieve their objective, then the game ends and the team wins. If the players successfully perform the level 3 stunt, that also wins the game. So if we're able to complete this level 3, we would win. And again, if the stunt cards move off the road, at the end, the game ends immediately and the team loses. Alright, so first off, what did you think of those components?
Good. For the game, for the price, it was better than I expected.
It was absolutely awesome. I love the semi, how the back opened up and you can even drive the cars underneath it. I thought that was really cool. The helicopter was actually really well done. It wasn't bent or anything. And a lot of times you have these plastic components as you have warping of the plastic and things and kind of like get bent and misaligned. And mine was perfect. I love the little cars. I love the board. I love the card quality. To me was really good. I enjoyed it, and I had a lot of fun playing this game.
I did too. You're right with the quality. It was good for the price point. Now don't get too high of expectations. They're still plastic pieces, but they are nice quality. And the cards were actually better quality than I thought. They're very solid. So you have like your car, your character, and then you have like car stats that are built onto the card, right? So it's all like one big card. Mm-hmm. And it's very nice. There's more to do to this game than I thought there was going to be. I thought it was just going to be like a themed, like a rebrand almost of some other game that we played, maybe, perhaps. Like, I don't know. I can't even think of me off the top of my head. Like a racing game almost, That's kind of what I thought when I first seen the box.
Right.
But no, it's full cooperative. It's got different missions and scenarios that you play, which I really liked. They were completely different, too. So you're not going to be playing the same scenario just with like a rebrand. You're going to be playing something completely different. You have to take a different approach. You have to be careful with your car choices and what you do, because you can total your car, right? Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's going to happen more than likely. So don't get too attached too. But there's just a lot of really cool things that I didn't expect out of this game. For the price point, very impressed.
Absolutely. I like the fact that you can have the different characters and then you choose the different cars, give you your different stats. I thought that was actually a lot of versatility, or added a lot of versatility to being able to play the game. The fact that even when your car blows up doesn't mean you're actually out, because then you could take control of one of the SUVs. You could jump on top of the car, leap from car to car. I had a lot of fun with it, and at first I was like, man, this is a little heavier as far as rules than I was expecting, because a lot of these games from like movie or different IPs or TV shows, and they come to like either a video game or a board game, they're bad. This one is definitely not in the realm of bad at all. This is a positive for me. I really enjoyed the Fast and Furious game. Now, caveat here, I've really only seen the first 2 movies. I'm not a Fast and Furious like movie fan or anything like that, but I love this game. This was an absolute blast. I love cars. I love racing movies and stuff. I just, for whatever reason, never got into the Fast and Furious movies, but this isn't about the Fast and Furious movies. This is about the Highway Heist. And this game, I tell you what, I had a lot of fun.
I did too.
And I would play this over and over. The fact that it was cooperative, was great. This was great. If you and your gaming group are in a cooperative, strategic moving games, and you know there's a positive that you like racing, you like cars, I really think your gaming group's gonna love this game. This is a big thumbs up from us here at Mature Money Gamers, and I cannot more highly recommend the Fast and Furious Highway Heist from Funko Games or Prospero Games. So please check it out. It is definitely a winner. So, all right, everybody, thanks for joining us today for our review, and be sure to check out all of our other great content on MatureMindedGamers.com. We do video games, board games, and so much more. You can also join us on our Discord. But until next time, everyone, stay safe and take care.
See you, everybody.